Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started here this morning. A couple housekeeping items to begin with. If you have a question, Kieran is over here in the white shirt. Raise your hand, and we'll take questions in person. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, good morning to you folks as well. If you have a question, hit the virtual raised hand button, and we'll take your questions, as many as we can get to here this morning, here in just a bit. Joining us today, Dennis Reinbold, owner of Dreyer and Reinbold Racing. On the far side, Don Cusick, Cusick Motorsports team owner, and a special guest there in the middle. Dennis, we'll turn it over to you to make the announcement.
Okay, I guess this is not a shocker right here, but Graham is going to replace Stefan in the car for us the rest of the week and coming Sunday. So that is our announcement. I guess we're all done.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Carb Day.
It's been a whirlwind. I don't have a script, so that's kind of consistent with how the last day has gone. So we're excited to put Graham in the car. It was a tough deal. We had the month going really well with Stefan. He is getting further evaluation today, I know, going in for x-rays here soon to sort of determine the path of what's best for him. So you saw the release yesterday that he was ruled out and what happened with all that. So we had to do a lot of work yesterday afterwards to get things put together and with Graham, and there were a lot of hurdles involved, and Graham can speak to some of those, but a lot of things that what I want to touch on is just how much the IndyCar community really, in a situation like this, rallies around each other, and all the help that we got from everyone in the paddock and elsewhere. I mean, we even had like Mike and Sandy Fink, longtime friends, showed up with dinner for us last night as we're working to get our backup car prepared for Graham. So it just goes all the way through the paddock, and it's really a touching thing that so many competitors can come together and work together, and a lot of credit to the Chevy guys who we talked with, and there's just so many conflicts and things that we had to work through to put this together, that it's the Indy 500, and people come together to make this event special and make it great like it is. And so I don't know, I'm rambling on, but that's kind of how I feel. It's been a moving experience, a lot of emotions through the last 24 hours, and just really touched by all the support that we've had.
Don, we'll turn it over to you. Just your thoughts about the last 24 hours here.
Yeah, first, I'd just like to let everybody know I did speak with Steph this morning. Obviously, he's fairly crushed emotionally, but supportive of what we're doing here, and we can't wait to get him better and get him back out here. He really appreciates all the outpouring and concern, and hopefully we'll get him back here on Sunday and walk down the track with him. As far as all of this craziness goes, definitely a first for us, definitely a first for me. Didn't really expect to be sitting here having this conversation, but here we are. Very, very thankful to Dreyer, Reinbold, Dennis, and Brett for putting this together, and super thankful that Graham was able to do this as well. We're excited for Sunday. It's going to be a little bittersweet, obviously, but glad we can go forward and do it, and super appreciative of IndyCar, the racing family, and the individual sitting over here to my right.
And finally, Graham, to you. Now you'll be hopping in the number 24 DRR Cusick Motorsports Carekeeper Chevrolet. Your thoughts?
Well, first off, I think as everybody said, I certainly feel for Steph. I know how much he puts into this, year in and year out to get the opportunity to be here, and to see what happened to him, is never good. And I know emotionally the roller coaster he's on right now. Unfortunately, I've I've just lived it as well. And I know that he'll be back, really, really strong and better than ever. That said too, the Wilson family, certainly in my life, has had a very strong impact. So it's as I said yesterday, I told AC, everything in life happens for a reason. Sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but when I got the call from Dennis yesterday afternoon, right away, I felt compelled that this was, for some reason, my calling was to be here, to be able to help as best I could and to fill in. Clearly, this is Steph's ride. It's his seat. He's done a great job to get it to the point that it is, and it was an honor for me to receive the call. So to Dennis, to Brett, to Don, everybody that made that happen, I certainly am very grateful. And I must say, Dennis mentioned Chevy, and equally so Honda for allowing me to do this. I think I told Dennis when he called me yesterday evening, I said, "Oh, not really sure I want to waste your time. I've spent my entire career in a Honda. I've never driven anything other than that. And I'm not really sure that we'll be able to get the releases in place to be able to make this happen." And they really came together, two manufacturers, to allow this to take place, to allow us to go race on Sunday, and hopefully get this car moving towards the front and have a really, really strong run. It's also, kind of special for me in a way to come back. I drove for Dennis, 13 years ago at Iowa. We had a really strong run there. Always admired what he's been able to do with his team, and Chase. I think the entire organization does a great job, and as proven this month. I mean, they came out with Ryan. I texted Ryan on last Wednesday night, and I was like, "Damn, dude, you're gonna win this thing!" Like, he was the best car I thought I saw all day. So trust me, I'm excited at the opportunities ahead as well. But make no mistake, as I've said and made it clear, this is certainly Steph's ride, and I'm fortunate to be in the position to be able to help and fill in. And like I said, hopefully we can have a really, really great Sunday. And again, it's kind of a weird thing as well. Carekeepers, which is the primary, Gary and Dina Tennyson, who own Carekeepers, have been very, very close friends of ours and supporters of our foundation for 6, 7, 8 years. So again, how this world works, sometimes it doesn't make sense at the time. But I remember when Gary called me about 7, 8 months ago saying he was going to do this, I was thrilled for him. This is kind of a lifelong dream for him to work with Don to get the opportunity to have his logo on a car here at Indy. And look where we are today. I mean, who would have known? So sometimes weird things happen in this world. And I as I said, you don't have the answers for them up front, but we're fortunate to be here.
We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Again, raise your hand. Kieran has the microphone. We'll begin in the front row with Bruce Martin from NBC and Forums.
Graham, you were very close to Stefan's brother. He was your teammate when you came into the Champ Car Series in 2007. I imagine you're pretty good friends with Steph also, but when you think of that familial bond that you have with the Wilson family, you talked about a calling. Is that really something you reflected on?
Oh, for sure. I think about Justin a lot. So, when the call came, right away, it was, an immediate connection. Frankly, I think in many ways, Justin helped in more ways than one kind of shape my career, not only as a man and who you should be, how you should act, all of that stuff, but also, I remember in 2006, I was in Formula Atlantic. Of course, I don't know why, but we had a joint autograph session with the Champ Car guys. We were in Portland, and I was still, dreaming that, hey, maybe someday, Formula One. And Justin Wilson was the guy who told me that it was way too political and I didn't have the right filter to enter Formula One. So if it weren't for him, I probably would have kept chasing a different dream. So in many ways, he did help me, but I do know as a teammate too, when I was with him at Newman Haas, and then again with Dennis at Iowa. I mean, he's just a tremendous guy, and Steph is right there with him. And so, as I said, their entire family I have the utmost respect for. And And when, in a scenario like this, I felt had it been something different, I don't know how compelled I would have been, particularly with the storylines of the last couple of days. Trust me, for me, it was a bit of a bittersweet moment to, do I do it? Do I not? Is it appropriate? Is it not? But in this circumstance, with Dennis, with Don, with Gary, with Steph, it felt right. And as I said, I can't thank, Honda and Chevy and all the sponsors. It's been a tough week, for our sponsors as well, and for everybody who's been able to make this possible to release me to come over here. I'm super grateful.
And also from the depths of despair that you felt Sunday, hugging your daughter and crying into her face, to knowing now you're back in the race. How do you describe just the lowest low and now a very high?
Well, the positive, she's 2 years old, so she doesn't really know what it was all about. All she told me when I hugged her was, "Ooh, Daddy, you're wet." I was like, of course I've been sweating for an hour. No, I felt every emotion over the last couple of days. But as I've always said, and Dennis knows this well, that's Indy. It can put you through a vicious cycle, and you never know what's going to happen, how it's going to take place. We don't know how it's going to end up in 5-6 days time. But at the end of the day, when an opportunity like this comes, you certainly are honored to get the call. And for me, it was, I won't lie, I really did feel excited to have the sense that, another team had the respect, at least for me to call. It was a great opportunity to come out here and try to perform and be able to race this Sunday. So you go through it all, the highs, the lows. And I still, as I said, I still don't want to, to step in and take over here. I mean, it is Steph's role. He's put this all together. He and Don and Dennis and everybody have put this entire program together. It's a very unfortunate situation. I feel for him. I was, when I saw the accident, I was very concerned for his back right away when I saw the angle of the accident. And unfortunately, I'm aware of those things because of, being a taller driver. It is an issue that I feel like have a little more frequently. And so I feel terrible that he's in the role he's at. But as Don said, I'm sure he'll be back stronger than ever and come back here next year and put on a great challenge.
Let's go, David, and then Joey on the other side.
Graham, you mentioned you've been tied to Honda for as long as anybody can remember. So can you take us through what those conversations were like, and also conversations with your sponsorship over on that side?
Well, Dennis will tell you too. He when he called, I'd said to him, I don't really want to waste your time. It's probably best that you just speak to Dad. Because again, while I was very appreciative, I knew the hurdles were going to be massive. This wasn't just as easy as saying yes. I think we both last night, we were sitting there at about 10:30 and going, I can't believe this actually happened. That both Honda and Chevy allowed this to happen. So we're very, very appreciative of that. Frankly, that would be a better question for Dennis and Dad to answer than me, because I knew that the challenges were far greater than me, and I needed to step aside because contractually, I don't know what all said between RLL and Honda, or RLL and our partners. But I know that this guy here to my right is a high class individual, and I know he and Dad spoke and worked things out right away. And I'm surprised, but it was certainly exciting for me to hear late last night that we were going to be able to make this happen.
And then also, any idea what it's going to feel like going against your team on Sunday?
Well, I think we start at the back, right? Isn't that the rule?
Yeah.
Is it? I think
we do.
So I'll still be starting. Jack hasn't gotten rid of me yet. But look, it's going to be very unique for me. this situation is super unique. I will go from here to sit in the car. I mean, you got to think everything's different, and I've been in the same place for 12 years now. So for me, steering wheel, I mean, I haven't changed my steering wheel in 12 years. I still run the same base wheel that I've run, since the Newman Haas days. Took it from Newman Haas to Ganassi to RLL. So the whole thing is going to be a very unique situation. Obviously, to drive, with the Chevy power plant for the first time. I do know that, Hunter Ray already texted me and said, hey, make sure later we need to talk about, the yellow map, and we need to talk about that because it's different. I mean, it just is the way that people operate. And I've been so programmed and tuned into the Honda side for so long that this is going to be a unique scenario. But to compete against them, look, I wouldn't come here, if I didn't think we had a chance to win and go forward. I think these guys will tell you they've had a very strong car all week. And Ryan's going to be a great partner. He's probably been my closest friend in this sport since I came into the sport. My first year, here he was driving for my dad. And so, Ryan and I have always been very close. So I'm excited by the opportunity. We've talked for years about eventually working together, and the situation's certainly unique, but I'm still excited to get to be with Ryan, see what we can do on Carb Day and make this thing go forward. So I wish my team at RLL the best for sure. I certainly want to see them succeed, but I also wouldn't be doing this if I didn't want to go win with these, with Don and Dennis and Gary and this entire organization. That's my job. So that's what we're going to try to go do.
We'll go Joey here and then take a couple off Zoom.
Graham, you kind of touched on it, but what are the next couple of days leading into Carb Day going to look like for you?
I thought they were filled with golf and kids. But it's right back to work. There's a lot to learn. But I feel we're in good position, as far as the individuals. Obviously Jeff, who's the engineer, I'm familiar with. Todd, Ryan's engineer, was with our team at RLL a long time. So I know Todd. Chase, I've known forever. Obviously the Selmans, everybody knows. So I've known the whole family for quite a long time. There's a lot of familiar faces there. So, going to jump in. It'll be a little bit of a quick learning experience, but it's nothing we haven't done before. So it's just, got to settle in here over the next couple of days and really, make sure that we're comfortable with all the switches and all the mapping and all of the things that are going to be of high importance. Clearly when it comes to feeling the car out for the first time, that's going to be Carb Day, and there's not a lot of time to do that. But luckily, on Sunday, there's 500 miles for us to, if the car's not in the window, get the car closer. But as I said, I feel like everybody has been very, very, Steph and Ryan have been very strong all week. So I don't anticipate any major challenges there.
Probably be unique to not have debriefs with RLL drivers for the first time in a long time, I imagine. Are there any, with this being a unique partnership, I mean, and I don't know who's best served to answer this, but from a sponsor standpoint, how does that going to work? Are any of your sponsors going to be on the car coming over, crossing into the car?
Go ahead, Graham. No, I try to pass the buck there. From the start of this yesterday afternoon, Bobby immediately came over and spoke to me, and we put our heads down to try to figure out how we could make this happen if we could. And a lot of the concerns he had were with Graham's sponsors, and we have some flexibility, and he stepped in, Bobby stepped in and really made it work out to where we could do different things and shift things around. And I worked with Don in that regard as well. So it's just been a group effort to try to figure out what we can do. So our car will look a little bit different to accommodate some of those things in order for us all to work together and just get to the end goal. I mean, this was a dire situation for for us. Graham had his situation Sunday, so we're trying to turn it into a win-win situation. Hopefully win-win-win, being Sunday with the final win. So that's what we did. We just, rolled up our sleeves and went to work. So yeah, we're going to do some different things sponsorship wise and accommodate what we can do. So, and we've got some other announcements coming with Ryan's car as well. So both cars will look slightly different and tweaked and things like that. So working on it still.
Let's take a couple off Zoom. Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Go ahead, Nate.
Thanks, Dave. I have three specific questions. The first for the team, was Graham the first choice? And did you have a backup?
Yeah, Graham was the first choice. A lot of it was it just was so sudden that there wasn't a lot of time to think and for Don and I sat down pretty much immediately and started thinking. Once we found out Stefan couldn't be cleared to run, there's a short list because not a lot of guys are approved. And to be able to come out and just run without refreshers and things like that, Graham obviously doesn't need a refresher, but my whole goal is to win this race. And Donna and I talked about it, and we both agreed immediately that if we could somehow pull it off, and I don't know that we were optimistic we could, but we thought we would go down the path and explore the possibility of putting Graham in the car. And so that's how that evolved.
I'd just like to say that for us, we replace one really class act with another one. So that makes a difference too.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I apologize if this is covered in the release, but is the plan still to use the backup, the 2-year-old chassis as the backup? And if so, I know Graham's car wasn't exactly fast on Sunday, but was there any consideration of using an RRL chassis instead of trying to get a backup prepared?
No, it has to come from our stable. So we've prepared our cars equally across the board. And so, yeah, to go to the backup car is something that it was pretty much ready to go. The guys are in there working on it now. And as soon as we're done here, we'll go get Graham fitted and things like that. And so we're really not going to miss too much of a beat in that sense.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Nate. Timmy May. Tim, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. This question is for Graham. When you first got the call, did any thought go through your mind like, well, wait a minute, our driver hit your driver. Why are you calling us? I mean, but I'm not trying to be macabre there, but it was an interesting irony there, right?
Leave it to the Columbus,
Tim.
Ohio guy to ask the question.
Right.
To be honest, it's an interesting situation across the board. And I certainly don't, as I've made clear all along, I don't feel good about filling in for an injured driver. I feel for Stefan. I've said that numerous times here. I feel for him tremendously because I do know how much this means to him and how much work he puts in and year out to be here. Unfortunately, in racing, things happen. I mean, look at the last 48 hours, in my life, even it's been all over the board. And, as I said, in any, and this is the truth, in some other situations, I don't think that it would have excited me as much, but being that it was Stefan, being it was a Wilson, and in the situation it was in, I just felt like it was my calling to jump in and help. And I was very fortunate that Dennis and Don and everybody at DRR and Cusick Motorsports called me. I mean, it's that simple. I was honored because, on a personal level too, as I said already, I felt, it gave me a boost personally to get the call because, I have driven for my dad for so long. You always wonder, what everybody else thinks of you, so to speak. And so it was a blessing, but I want to make sure, like I've said all along, that for me, my job's to go out there and make everybody here proud. And that includes Steph. I can't imagine what's going through his mind. As Don said, I'm sure emotionally, this is a very, very, very tough time for him. We just want to be there to support him as best we can and perform as best we can, no matter what the scenario was or how it all took shape yesterday.
Yeah. And there's no two nicer guys than Stefan and Justin Wilson. I mean, it is, yes, great. Real quick though, like you were talking about a while ago, getting up to snuff with the car itself. Will you just sit in the car and run through the buttons on the steering wheel, for example, and things like that? And is there any kind of simulator you can jump in at this point?
No, really just sit in there and speak with Ryan mainly, to try to get his input, because he's been, through a few different teams and stuff. So to get his input on how things work, because everything is a little bit different. Team to team, the way the weight jackers work, or, the fuel mixtures or trim switches and all these other things, where the radio button is. Do they use a drink bottle or do they use a pump? There's a variety of different scenarios there. But as Dennis also said, I do think that Dad and Dennis have been tremendous in working together. And I know a lot of my stuff, seat wise, belts, even potentially all that stuff from RLL will be able to carry over. The chassis are all pretty much, they're built the same by Dallara. So should be able to jump in and get going. The steering wheel is just not one you can switch easy, because the programming and the wiring and everything is pretty specific to the team. So we'll sit in there and study as best we can. Probably take a photo so that I can go home and look at the wheel and get the buttons memorized. All those things are going to be critical. But in this situation as a veteran, you've got to be a professional, and that's what you've trained to do for years and years. And you've got to be able to jump in and do it.
Yeah. Weight jacker. What's that? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know too well, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hey, last thing though, you feel, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think you feel like you're stepping into a quality race car too, right? I mean, based on their performance.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt that it's a great opportunity. These cars have been very, very strong. So, for me, I feel good about that. About our chances this weekend, and to move forward and put on a heck of a show. We've got 500 miles to do so. Try to play it as we always do. Put ourselves in a good position. Come the last couple stints of the race, and be able to move forward and hopefully make these two proud and staff and everybody associated with the program.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Tim. We have time for maybe one or two follow-ups. We'll go Bruce and then Nathan after that, and we'll wrap it up.
Graham, not trying to sound melodramatic or anything, but do you feel resurrected?
I don't know. This is a weird situation for me. I mean, it just is. My wife was just asking me, and I told her, I mean, I'm very excited at the opportunity, but I feel terribly for Steph too. So it's a very unique situation to be in. But ultimately, as I said, inside, it was exciting, and it was an honor for me to get the call. I know that the list of guys isn't super long of drivers that could jump in and do it, but I also know some of the other names that are probably on that list are guys that are very, very, very qualified to go out there, who have a lot of experience and can do a great job. And so for me to get the call, to get the opportunity it's very exciting.
Nathan.
Graham, kind of to follow up on that a little bit. I know when you were interviewed yesterday afternoon during the practice, you spoke about how you planned on going throughout this week and helping Rahal and Langan Racing get everything best positioned for Sunday, with the knowledge that you have of being in the car and experience with the team, experience in this race, etc. Did any of that play through your mind when you were deciding whether to take this opportunity? Did you feel at all compelled to turn it down and stay back with the team, given everything you guys have gone through?
Well, I certainly won't lie that, I mean, things change in a hurry, don't they? But for me, yes, there was a part of me that thought, when you look at RLL and where we were as a team, you know, can I have more of an impact to try to help Jack and Christian and Kat perform better, you know, on the weekend, and of course even in their debrief session, you know, after. I always try to give them information and experience, but I felt compelled to give them a lot more, you know, right after the session, and try to help them as from what I could see studying their film and all that stuff. Of course, now it's a little bit of a different situation. So, you know, our focus and attention is completely dedicated to Brian Reinbold and Cusick Motorsports to do the best that we can in the 24 car. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're competing now. That's the reality of this situation. Things in motorsports, I tell people all the time, motorsports is one of the few sports where there just are no guarantees ever, and things can change immediately. And that's the situation that we're in. And we're going to go out there and do the absolute best we can to get in victory lane. It's been a dream of mine my entire life. I think we've got a great opportunity to do so with Brian Reinbold and with Don, and I'm excited by that.
And then one question for Dennis. I know you've touched on it a little bit, generally speaking, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you and maybe more specifically the folks at Chevy and Honda were able to make this work given Graham's long ties to Honda?
Well, it probably started with Don and I discussing it, and then we brought Bobby into the circle, and I had discussions with the Chevy guys to get their feel for it, and Bobby took over the Honda discussions as well. So we just kind of went off on our separate paths with this goal in mind, and to explore and see if it was possible. And they came back, and, you know, a couple hurdles later that we crossed, it started looking good. And so we kept crossing off things on our checklist that had to happen for this to be a possibility. So there were a lot of things involved, and we spent a lot of time yesterday and into the night last night going through those things. So I don't know if that answers that, but it was a bit of a whirlwind. So I can't keep it all straight in my head at this point.
Thank you.
I know you got meetings, a seat fit, and so on. So we'll go ahead and cut you loose for now. We're also going to have a photo op here for those of you that want a photo of the three. But the twists and turns continue here in the month of May. Look forward to seeing you guys on the track this weekend.
Thanks.
Yep, Brian Reinbold, Cusick Motorsports, and Graham Rahal in the 24.
Record.